Welcome back to Route Double. Now, when we last left off... Yeah, we just went through... We're on Chapter 6 now. We just went through our flashback sequence. And we're getting ready to start the final day.
Yoshi, やるべきことは決まりだな。
Let's see. Yeah, we were trying to get... So we're going to go talk to Enna and Ukita. Try and get them to help. And I remember now, we were just having a conversation about... Or I was just talking about how... This is the point where... we find out that Enna's heart is closed.
保安課の疑いを晴らす。テロ組織のメンバーを探す。大人の協力を募る。
それも監視カメラや保安課に気をつけながらな。
それでもやらなきゃならないってのが正義の味方の辛いとこだね。覚悟はいい？私はできてるよ。
ああ、厳しい条件かもしれないけど、なんとかやってみようじゃないか。
力を合わせて頑張ろう。
The three of them nodded at each other, and Natsuhiko spoke.
よし、それじゃあ早速動き出そう。
了解。
And with that, the three of them exchanged firm handshakes. Policeman's job. After a quick breakfast, they left the karaoke box. Right as they were about to walk out into the town,
待って。
Sally held back Natsuhiko and Masho from walking any further.
どうした？
そこに警官がいる。
They looked, and sure enough, there were two officers standing at the corner.
でもそれがどうしたの？警察は敵じゃないよ。それでも用心すべき。様子見に警官の会話を聞こう。
ああ。
As Sally suggested, they hid by the entrance and strained their ears. Upon which Natsuhiko heard the officers' conversation.
しかし、ここのところ警ら多すぎませんか？こんなに歩き回って意味があるんですかね？
The younger officer grumbled. The older officer replied.
意味はあるさ。我々が見回ること自体がそもそも犯罪者への牽制になるんだよ。
でも、こんな平和な街にテロリストがいるとか言われてもピンときませんよ。
だが、いよいよ市役所にも脅迫状が届いたらしいからな。警戒を怠るわけにはいかん。市内の主だった BC 関連施設はうちや保安課が張っているが、念には念を入れてだ。
Interesting. Mashita whispered as they listened in on the conversation.
きっとその脅迫状も陽動だよね。
Q のせいで街全体がピリピリしてるんだ。
Damn you, Q!
戒厳令って感じだね。でもとりあえず警官は私たちを追ってはいない模様。それに警官や保安課が別件で忙しいなら私たちの追尾の手は少しは緩むはず。
そうか、それはありがたいな。
Kids waited for the officers to leave before heading out into the street.
さーて、どうしよっかな。早速聴診券に行く？
いや、あそこは遠すぎる。とりあえず手近なところから当たろう。
手近なところって？
僕んちのお隣さん、つまり浮田のおじさんの家だよ。
Ukita first, okay. And thus they walked toward Ukita's house. Ukita's house was about a 30-minute walk away from Center Street. They needed to avoid any street surveillance cameras. So the 30-minute distance took over an hour to clear.
やっと着いた。
Masho took a deep breath, finally relieved from all the tension of having to avoid notice.
さて、おじさんは。
Natsuhiko pressed the doorbell as he spoke. However, there was no response no matter how many times he pressed the button.
あれ？いないみたいだね。こんな朝早くからどこへ？
仕事かな？
Ukita was a Labo researcher. He may have been too busy at work to have gone home last night.
早速当てが外れちゃったな。
仕方ないよ。それじゃあ次は。
An angry shout interrupted Mashiro.
夏彦！
Uh-oh! They turned around in shock to see a woman in a lab coat standing in front of the house next door. It was a face they hadn't seen in days, Natsuhiko's mother, Dr. Miyoko Tenkawa. Uh-oh, crap! The professor briskly walked towards them as Natsuhiko silently cursed this unexpected turn of events.
昨夜保安課から連絡を受けたわ。超神経の警備員に怪我を負わせたんですって。
Mom's fucking pissed.
なんだ、それで戻ってきたのか。
当たり前でしょう。息子がそんなことをしたなんて予想もしなかったもの。ユイ、あなたがついていながら一体何をやっているの？
ごめんなさい。
Uh-oh.
ましろちゃんもよ。あなたも一緒にいたんですって。
すみません。でも
Natsuhiko glared back at the professor as she scolded them.
ちょっと待てよ母さん、二人は関係ないだろ。というかこれは僕らの問題だ。母さんはそもそも関係ない。
Uh-oh.
関係ない？大ありよ。この忙しい時に引っ張り出されるなんて。
The professor sighed deeply.
お願いだから余計な問題を増やさないで。今仕事が過去最大に忙しいの。
Uh-oh. Something snapped inside Natsuhiko. Oh no. Professor Sun and his friends were being pursued on the pretext of a false charge, and yet she wouldn't listen to any of it. To top it all off, she was still trying to focus on work.
わかったよ母さん。迷惑かけて悪かった。すぐラボに戻って仕事したらいいよ。
そんなことできるわけないでしょう。
できるわけない。やればいいだろ。こんな時にまで仕事って言うくらいなら。
He felt something murmuring in his heart as he spoke. He knew he sounded like a spoiled child, but he couldn't stop the words from leaving his lips.
僕らが追われているのは無実の罪を着せられたからだ。こっちにも非はあるけど、警備員が嘘の通報をしたんだよ。
え？
それに僕らは悪いことをしているわけじゃない。この町にいるテロリストを探しているだけだ。
テロリスト？何の話をしているの？
そういう可能性があるんだよ。だから僕らなりにテロを阻止しようと思って。
阻止？バカなことを言わないで。
Professor raised her voice sharply.
わけのわからないことを言ってないで。家でおとなしくしていなさい。
いや、これは僕の意思だ。おとなしくなんてしていられない。
何か不満なことでもあるの？生活に不自由はさせてないはずでしょ。
そりゃ母さんには金銭的に世話になってるけど、僕の行動についてまであれこれ言われたくない。だいたい家に帰っても来ない親の言うことなんてはいはい聞けるわけないだろ。
Ooh. Professor's face froze over at those words.
夏彦やめなよ。
Harsh, but it's definitely been building up for a while.
それは言い過ぎ。
Mashino and Sally frantically cut in. That was something Natsuhiko had always wanted to tell his mother. He couldn't stop the words he had been holding back all this time.
両親を亡くしたユーリを母さんは引き取ったな。それはすごく立派だと思うよ。だけど母さんはちゃんとユーリの親代わりになったかい？
Oof.
今更昔のことは言いたくないけど、母さんは仕事ばかりで家のことを顧みなかったじゃないか。
それは
小さい頃の僕とユーリが誰も帰ってこないあの家でどれだけ寂しい思いをしたと思う？心に傷を負ったユーリを僕がどんな思いで見続けてきたと思うんだよ。もちろんユーリに全く非はないよ。母さんにも女手一つで家計を支えてくれたことには本当に感謝してる。だから今まで言わなかったんだ。でも今回ばかりは。
Ooh. Just then, a weak smack rang out against Natsuhiko's cheek. It was the frail slap of his mother's palm against his cheek.
初めて殴られたよ。そういうところは案外親らしい。
Natsuhiko made it that far before gasping. Grace saw tears welling up in the professor's eyes. Oh no.
私はあなたのためを思ってあなたのために頑張ってるのに。
夏彦博士を泣かした。ひどい。
Hey, this is between family, Salio.
謝った方が。
Hey, Peanut Gallery. We're trying to work out some stuff between mom and son. Can you chill? Bitter regret filled his heart as the girls admonished him. What felt stronger than his regret was his confusion. It was all for me. I never asked for this. But why? Why are you crying? What's with that timing? I couldn't understand his mother's feelings. Dr. Tenkawa continued in a low voice. It's, again, no doubt she's trying to work her hardest for a good future for her son, but in that she's also sacrificed the actual family aspect. Emotional support a parent is supposed to provide. Which feels like when he was a kid, there was more of that, but as he's gotten older, she's been around less and less. It's again a case of no one's really the bad guy here. They're all... She's trying hard in her own way, albeit unintentionally neglecting him emotionally.
夏彦、お願いだから今はおとなしくしていて。
She does have a heart.
私はすぐラボに戻らなければならないのだけど、後で話をゆっくり聞くから。
今はどういう意味だよ、母さん。何か言いたいことがあるのか。
いいえ。
今回の一件と何か関係があるのか。
何もないわ。いつか話せる時が来ればとは思うけど。
The professor spoke in insinuative words. Natsuhiko wanted to know what was on her mind. Wanted to know from the bottom of his heart for the very first time. Mom, what are you trying to say? That thought crossed his mind. What? His five senses suddenly faded into the distance. His vision blurred. His hearing diminished. What? Are you... Empathy? And instead, voices echoed in Natsuhiko's brain.
やはり私はこの子に嫌われている。仕事がすべて終わるまでいっそ会わない方が。
Oh my god, was she... Natsuhiko was shocked. The sensation was quite similar to receiving telepathy. Not entirely. He heard a voice directly echoing in his head, but Natsuhiko had heard Dr. Tenkawa's mental voice. This is empathy? As soon as Natsuhiko had that thought, his five senses returned.
Natsuhiko!
He snapped back when he heard Mashiro's voice up against his ear.
どうした？
誰かこっちに来る!
Oh. Turned around in shock to see two men running their direction from the other side of the street. They were the security department members who were standing in front of Mashiro's house yesterday. Damn it, did they see us already? He was concerned about the meaning of his mother's tears and if he had just used empathy, but...
逃げよう!
Natsuhiko quickly shouted that command. With just a moment of hesitation, Mashiro and Salyu nodded.
ごめんなさい、博士。私たち行きます。博士、夏彦は私が守る。心配は無用。
With that, the three of them ran away, leaving behind Dr. Tenkawa, hanging her head in shame.
走れ! 二人とも走れ!
Natsuhiko frantically ran, urging the girls to do so as well.
とにかく人気のない方に逃げよう。人混みの中では誰が保安官員か識別しにくくなる。
In accordance with Salyu's suggestion, they ran away from the urban areas. The situation was different from their escape last night. They had taken advantage of the cover of dark, but this time it was a challenge purely of stamina and agility. Salyu seemed like she had more than enough stamina, but... Mashiro's rough breathing was loud and clear. Her stamina could give out at any moment. Natsuhiko took Mashiro by the hand, and right when they thought they had finally shaken off the men... Uh-oh. A car appeared in their path. Rokume City's emblem was painted on the side.
また保安か。
二人ともこっちだ。
Oh boy. Natsuhiko detoured into a side street. They continued into a narrow, unpaved road that seemed inaccessible to cars.
まずいぞ。このままじゃいつか追いつかれる。
どこか隠れる場所はない？わかんないよ。
Mashiro cried bitterly. Her voice sounded so pained. Mashiro was by no means fast on her feet, and her physical strength was subpar at best. Damn it, at this rate, Mashiro's gonna... The security department's presence was gone for now, but by no means did that mean they could stop. They ran at random through the narrow streets, so as to make themselves harder to track.
待って、もうダメ。
Mashiro finally threw in the towel. That very moment, beyond the grass lining the side of the road, they saw an old, abandoned building.
あれだ。あそこに隠れよう。
The kid stumbled into the building. Oh, it was a dark, empty place. Despite its considerable size, there was no sign of anybody inside. Kids took deep breaths.
"ここなら少しは奴らの目もごまかせるかな。
可能性は高い。入るとき確認したけど、入り口の付近には監視カメラはなかった。よかった。正直やばかった。
Mashiro spoke as she caught her breath. She seemed to have finally recovered. She took a look around and suddenly opened her eyes as if she had noticed something.
あれ？ここって？
どうした？
いや、ここ秘密基地じゃない？
え？あ、本当だ。
Now that you mentioned it, it was. It was the abandoned factory that Natsuhiko and the other children played in. Their so-called secret base.
変わらないな。あの頃のままだ。
このくらい大きいと壊すのもお金かかるからね。
ちょうどいい。勝手知ったる基地だし、ちょっとここで休んでいこう。
例によってほとぼりが冷めるのを待とうか。
They wiped off their sweat and leaned against the wall. Sally looked a little tired too as she whispered.
それにしても保安課のせいで動き回るのが困難。厄介なのを敵に回しちゃったね。私たちが守りたいと願う。
Aha! The next BOBO episode.
なるだなんて皮肉なもんだよ。
They'd always known that the security department to be a reliable organization. Now they were painfully aware of just how diligent they were. Mom could have just stopped those security department freaks for us. The thought reminded Natsuhiko of something. Remember that strange voice he heard back when he saw his mother.
そうだ。二人とも聞いてくれ。
何？
実はさっき母さんと話している途中、なぜか母さんの心の声が聞こえたんだ。
心の声？それって。
I wonder if part of the reason why Miyoko sort of dove more into work, I wonder if that has to do with the fabled Yuri Natsuhiko Leibo incident that changed them both. I wonder if that somehow started this seed of Natsuhiko hates me, and that's what just gradually drove her to commit more and more to work and come home less and less. He hates me, I'm just going to devote everything to my work to just provide for him, and hopefully he'll I'm gonna keep away from him because he hates me and just gonna provide for him. That's all I can do to apologize for whatever happened. We don't know the details of what happened yet, but that feels like that's the implication of that thought in her head. I knew it. He does hate me.
エンパシー？
わからないけど、多分。
Marshall's eyes widened at those words.
まさか本当なの夏彦？いくらなんでも早すぎない？テレパシーだって使えるようになったばかりでしょ？
いや、一瞬だったけど、確かに聞こえたんだ。
ちょっと試してみてよ。今心開くから、私の心の声聞いて。
Again, it's the mental will.
私も興味深い。ちょっと試してほしい。
The mental will of I wholeheartedly want to understand what she's thinking.
ああ、わかったよ。
And now that he's gonna try it half-heartedly, it's not gonna work. Natsuko put a finger to his brow, a trick used for empathy. He shut his eyes and tried listening to the girls' mental voices. Gotta want to know what they're thinking in their heart. Please tell me what you guys are thinking. For some reason, he couldn't concentrate too well. Compared to telepathy, which only required focusing on a simple message, empathy seemed like it'd be several times more difficult to him.
どう夏彦？私の心の声聞こえた？
いや、やっぱりダメだ。テレパシーと同じく、本当に心底念じた時しか使えないみたいだ。
さあ、博士の時は心の底から念じたの？
うん、まあ急に泣かれたらさすがにね。
博士、何を考えていた？
いや、普通のことを考えていたよ。腹立つとか悲しいとか。
Natsuko awkwardly tried to gloss over the details. He recalled his mother's mental voice. I knew it. He hates me. But until all the work is complete, it'd be best if I avoided him. Mom was thinking things like that. They were quite unexpected thoughts. That was assuming not what Natsuko heard was actual empathy and not just an auditory hallucination.
そうだよ。錯覚かもしれない。真城の言う通り、こんなに早くエンパシーが使えるようになるわけがないもんな。声が聞こえた気がしただけかも。母さんの固有の波形を探ったりもしなかったしさ。
そうかな。それならそれでもいいんだけど。
Mashiro appeared to be preoccupied with other things. I guess this isn't the time to be talking about this. As soon as they started the search, they were nearly detained by the security department. Despite being the first to nearly throw in the towel, Mashiro was probably doing her best to endure. Natsuko thought he'd try to casually break the tension with some optimistic conversation.
それにしてもさ、真城、思い出すな、ここに来ると。
何を？
昔のことだよ。子供の頃はみんなよくここに集まってたもんな。
うん、そうだね。懐かしいね。
Masha looked around at the ruined factory with distant eyes. Eyes that were perhaps seeing images of the past.
また二人の昔話？ああ、ごめん。退屈かな。そんなことはない。私も聞きたい。
Oh.
いや、大した話じゃないんだけどさ。
With that introduction, Natsuko began to tell a story.
当時僕らはよくここに集まって六名士の七不思議の謎を解こうって盛り上がってたんだよ。
七不思議？この町に伝わる七つの不思議な噂のこと。例えばどんなものがあるの？
そうだな。どんなんだったっけ？
Natsuko thought it hard to remember them.
まずその1。ラボはただの原子力研究所じゃない。
Oh
兵器
no.
の製造など もっと国家的で危険な研究を行っている。
そんなバカな博士はそんな研究を。
It's just a theory.
いや、あくまで噂だよ。根も葉もないやつ。安堵した。
Oh,
でも当時は信じてたんだよな、こんな荒唐無稽な話をさ。
Natsuhiko continued with a wry smile.
その2、旧六名市立病院の焼け跡には火災で死んだ人の幽霊が出る。
幽霊なんていない。
That's
その3、街中の監視カメラは防犯のためじゃなくて一般市民を監視するために作られた。
a heavy thing for kids to be theorizing about.
それは今日に限っては荒唐無稽とは言い難い。
And probably the most accurate.
その4、BC を悪用する悪のコミュニケーターと戦う正義の組織が存在する。
Interesting.
通称 BC 警察。彼らの正体は謎に包まれているが、その本部は六名市にある。
それは現実ではなくアニメの話では。
True.
まあまあ、今考えるとただのジョークみたいなもんだからね。
他には何があったっけ？
そうだね、とっておきのがあるよ。
Mashito grinned broadly as she spoke to Salio.
その5、正しいやり方を知らずに BC を使っていると、そのコミュニケーターはやがて心が壊れた怪物になってしまう。
そうだ、それだ。
That fifth wonder was one step beyond the others in terms of eeriness. Sally's expression clouded upon hearing it too.
怪物になるってどういうこと？実はね、これは未だ根強く支持されている噂なんだけど、 BC にはまだ分かってない未知の部分がたくさんあるっていうのは知ってるよね。うん、そりゃ当然だよね。何しろ脳の仕組み自体がそもそもよく分かっていないんだもの。なのに独学で BC を学んで間違ったやり方で訓練をしたりしてると、脳におかしな負荷がかかって、それが蓄積して、
Become a BC zombie.
やがてその人は心が壊れてしまうらしいんだよ。
Sally's face clearly stiffened. Mashito continued in an even more exaggerated tone.
で、心が壊れてしまったコミュニケーターは常軌を逸した BC 能力や呪いに満ちたテレパシーを使って周囲の人に狂気を振りまく怪物になる。だからそれを防ぐためにも六名学園のようなコミュニケーター専用学校が作られたんだよ。
You're really telling horror stories right now. Sally jolted back in fear. Despite her lack of fear for ghosts, it seemed she could still be scared by such stories with questionable realism.
まあ、あながち嘘とは言えないかもな。その予防か知らないけど、うちの学校でも脳波検査や適正度検査、健康診断はしょっちゅうやってるし。ならばその怪物の出現記録が残るはず。それはあるの？ないよ。誰も見たことがない。空見たことか。ではそれも所詮噂に過ぎない。いや、それを保管するのが次の噂なんだな。
As Sally tilted her head, Natsuhiko thrust his finger at her and spoke up.
その6、怪物化した人は六名士保安課の隠蔽部隊によって捕まえられて市役所の地下に幽閉される。つまり怪物を誰も見たことないのは保安課が全てを隠しているからってわけさ。
Aha.
そんな。
Sally's face was already pale, her voice powerless. Natsuhiko just kept it coming.
で、七不思議のその7が。
Before he could finish, he forgot what it was.
あれ？真白、その7ってなんだっけ？
それもその後の補足みたいなやつだよ。つまり。もういい。 6つもあれば十分。
A flustered Sally spoke up. She apparently wasn't good with this sort of talk after all.
あらら、怖がりだね、サリュー。うるさい、マシロ。
まあまあ、子供らしくていいじゃないか。
うるさい、夏彦。いい加減にするべき。
Sally lightly slapped Natsuhiko and Mashiro on the cheeks.
ごめん、サリュー。
悪かった。脅かしすぎた。冗談だよ、冗談。
そうそう、こんなのただの噂だって。ならいい。でも今度また同じ話をしたら本気で怒る。
Sensing a flashback here.
わかったわかった。
いや、私たちも大人げなかったわ。
They smiled at each other. And thus, before they knew it, the heavy atmosphere had somehow abated. Marshall sure is tough. She's already bounced back. Now they thought about it, she was always like that. She had an indomitable will that allowed her to not shrink back when cornered, to find enjoyment out of even the toughest of times. That's right, she was like that back then, too, huh? With that thought, he had a recollection of another childhood memory. It's a story that happened after they had set Sirius free outside the gate. Natsuhiko and Mashiro had run away from the guard stationed there. It's a ton of these, huh? There seems to be one progressive timeline. I wonder if you skip one of them with the census choice, are you locked out of the rest of these? And as they ran recklessly, they found themselves at a ruined factory at the edge of town before they knew it. It was the place they had turned into their secret base. Oh. Natsuhiko and Mashiro laughed out loud. What they felt the most wasn't the sadness of parting from Sirius, nor the fear of getting caught by the guard, but rather the sense that they had truly accomplished something. They had saved a life. Natsuhiko was glad and proud of himself. He had experienced some terribly mortifying memories in that ruined factory. For that moment, he had forgotten about them.
なあ、マシロ。
何、夏彦。
僕らは今までライバルだったけど、これからは正義の仲間だな。うん。これからもこうして町の平和を守っていこう。
Allies of Justice.
大切なものは誰かが守ってくれるのを待つんじゃない。自分の手で守るものなんだぞ。だね。
Oh. Mashiro smiled softly as she spoke. Natsuhiko lost his breath. Not because she had quoted him, but because Mashiro's smile looked strangely charming to him in the moonlight.
あれ、どうしたの？顔赤いよ。
いや、なんでもないよ。
変なの。
Mashiro tilted her head and suddenly changed the subject.
それよりさ、どうしようこの後。
え？何が？
このまま帰ったらきっとお母さんに怒られちゃうよ。もう夜遅くなっちゃったし。
そういえば。
He hadn't thought about it. Natsuhiko spoke the first thing that came to mind.
だったらこのまま二人で正義の旅に出ようか。
あ、なんかわかんないけどそれいい。やりたいやりたい。
だろう？悪いやついっぱいやっつけてさ、保健所も懲らしめてさ。
Healthcare center.
そうすればシリオスもこの町に戻ってこれるよね。
うん、いつかはね。
でもそうなると敵も多いよね。そのためには仲間がもっといっぱい必要かな。
二人じゃさすがに無理か。
The fun laughter echoed in the dark secret base. However, Natsuhiko knew, and Mashito probably noticed it too. It was impossible for two children like them to go out on a journey all by themselves. Natsuhiko chose to ignore that reality as he spoke up cheerfully.
じゃあ仕方ないから旅は今度にして今日のところは帰ろうぜ。
残念。怒られるために帰るのか。
気にするなって。僕らは正義の任務をしたんだから。こそこそしないで堂々と帰ろう。ほら、行くぞ。
Natsuhiko took Mashito by the hand and started to walk. For a second, Mashito looked surprised. But she soon replied with a broad grin. As he saw her smile, Natsuhiko thought to himself, only this journey could continue forever instead of ending when they got home. He felt like he could walk like this anywhere so long as Mashito was with him. It sure brings me back. Now that he thought about it, they had hidden in this very same ruined factory. Perhaps that memory was what cheered Mashito up.
それにしてもあの頃サリュもいたらよかったのに。そしたら一緒に遊んだり、今思い出話もできたのにね。無念。
Mashito and Salyu cheerfully talked among themselves. Need more allies, huh? At the very least, we got one more now. They were fine with just the three of them. That thought in mind, Natsuhiko piped in with a cheerful voice.
さて、昔話はこの辺で創作の続きについて考えようか。
Mashito and Salyu's faces tensed at his words.
そうだね。そろそろほとぼりも冷めてる頃だろうし。
Sudden music change.
いや、それは甘いだろう。多分奴らはこの辺をうろうろしてると思うよ。
ここなら大丈夫だけど、開けたところに出れば監視カメラもある。このままでは移動もできない。そっか。困ったね。どうする？
Natsuhiko pondered that question for a bit.
そうだな。これからは移動はすべてタクシーを使おう。
え？
街道まではなんとか出て、そこで友人タクシーを拾うんだ。そしてそのまま一日貸し切りにしてしまうのさ。保安課も僕らがそこまでするとは読んでいないだろう。
そりゃあ豪快でいいけど、お金がかかるのでは？
僕だって多少は貯金がある。今がその使い時だよ。
Well.
そんないいの？
いいんだって。どうせ使い道もないんだから。
Fair enough. That was the money Natsuhiko had been meticulously saving up from his allowance and New Year's red envelopes ever since elementary school. His lack of hobbies meant that he had no use for the money, so he had an absurd amount of savings in the bank.
確か20万円くらいあるはずだ。さすがにそれだけあれば、タクシーの貸し切りくらいできるだろう。
I'd hope that's enough.
なんか夏彦がかっこよく見える。でも確かにそれは安全。
よし、だったら決まりだな。
He'd never done something as extravagant as reserving a taxi for a whole day, but now wasn't the time to mind such details.
では、うまくタクシーを捕まえられたら、次はどこへ？
そうだな。母さんは頼れないし、浮田のおじさんはいないし。
じゃあ、やっぱりここはエナ先生？あるいは当初の予定通り、超神経に行くのもいい。
Oh, is this an actual decision? Oh, wrong button. Natsuhiko pondered which route to take, and a moment later he gave his answer. Yeah, I guess this is an actual decision. Alright, I'll save here then. And I kinda wanna see the end scene, so...
超神経は保安課の連中が張っている可能性がある。
Also, that's a good point.
先に先生のところに行こ
う。でも、エナのうちはわかる？わからないけど、もしかしたら学校に行ったら会えるかも。
Anna was such a diligent teacher that she might have still gone to work even though it was a Sunday.
よし、それじゃ決まりだな。タクシー拾って、まず学校だ。
異議なし。行こう、二人とも。
With that exchange of words, the kids dashed out of the ruined factory. They ran from cover to cover and somehow managed to reach a convenience store beside the main road. For now, Natsuhiko withdrew 100,000 yen, or half his total savings. And thus they had enough to cover their transportation costs, but the convenience store's surveillance cameras had likely caught Natsuhiko on film. He had covered his face with his hand, but there was still the possibility that they could track his movements through his ATM card history. Mustn't stay here a moment longer than I need to. Gotta get out before the security department arrives. That thought in mind, Natsuhiko dashed out of the convenience store.
マシロ、サリュー、お金下ろしてきたぞ。
Mashiro and Salyu turned around once Natsuhiko shouted. They'd been waiting by the main road and had just hailed a taxi.
ありがとう、夏彦。さあ、早くこっちに。
Natsuhiko nodded and rushed to the taxi.
はい、どちらまで？
As he opened the door, Natsuhiko answered the driver's question with a question of his own.
すみません。一日貸し切りってできますか？
貸し切り？珍しいな。こっちとしては嬉しいけど。
いくらですか
？8時間で45,000円だね。
高いな。
でも迷っている暇はない。早く乗り込もう、夏彦。
With that, the kids piled into the car. The driver spoke in a tone of voice that was suddenly a lot more polite.
ご利用ありがとうございます。それではまずどちらへ？
六名学園まで。
かしこまりました。音声入力、目的地6名学園。ドライブモード、自動、通常。走行開始。
The driver commanded the automatic driving system and the taxi and immediately took off. Aha. After a little while, they arrived at the school. Now, I'm just curious about something. I feel like we're gonna get talked back into doing this anyway.
This is Saryuの判断に従おう。超真剣に行くべきだ。
でも大丈夫かな。おまわりさんたちの話じゃ、市内の重要施設は警察と保安課が固めてるって話だけど。
でも一刻も早く警備員をとっちめてやりたいだろ。な。
同意。ことと次第によってはもう一度投げ飛ばす腹積もり。
That feels like it's not gonna solve problems, it's gonna cause more problems.
それは余計にこじれそうな。
Yes, thank you,
まあいい。
Ashilo.
とにかくタクシー拾って超真剣に行こう。
Oh shit. Alright, that is gonna be different. Fair enough. Let's jump back to our normal timeline. After a little while, they arrived at the school. The gate was open even though it was a Sunday. Perhaps to let in teachers looking to get work done on a day off, or to allow students to use the facilities for club activities.
運転手さん、裏手の職員用通用口まで行ってください。
喜んで！
The driver moved the car in accordance with Natsuhiko's directions. Then the kids got off the taxi at the staff entrance.
運転手さん、ここで待っててください。後で戻ってきますから。
そりゃ貸し切りですから。お待ちしておりますとも。
With that voice at their backs, they entered the school. It was the same familiar school they attended. They made sure to be cautious as thieves. They got inside, Salyu muttered.
それじゃあ早速エナを。
待て、サリュ。
Natsuhiko quickly stopped Salyu.
どうしたの？
耳を澄まして、あそこから聞こえる音を聞くんだ。
Natsuhiko pointed to the corner of the ceiling as he spoke. And there, you could hear the servo motors of a surveillance camera.
ここにもカメラが。
この学校には不審者の侵入防止のために監視カメラが備え付けられているんだ。
Which has been perfectly adequate until we've become the suspicious characters. Natsuhiko normally paid them no heed, because if he let their presence get to him every day, he'd never be able to stay calm.
これじゃ職員室に行くこともできない。
ああ、でもなんとか資格をついて。
As Natsuhiko began to speak, Mashito placed a finger to her temple.
待って二人とも。今先生にテレパシーを送るから。先生、緊急事態です。こちらは鳥羽真白です。学校内にいたら通用口のところまで来てくださいって。この方が動き回るより確実だよ。
なるほど。じゃあここで待とう。
And thus they waited for a while after Mashito sent her telepathy. Eventually, Enna appeared.
鳥羽さん、天川君に三宮さんも。先生、よかった、いてくれた。
あなたたちどうしたの？日曜日に学校に来て、しかも緊急事態って。
話せば長くなるんです。どこか監視カメラのないところで話せませんか？
Anna watched Natsuhiko's tense entreaty with a serious look on her face.
何か切羽詰まった事情があるのね。すぐそこに BC ルームがあるわ。あそこなら監視カメラもない。そこでは。
Oops, sorry. They slipped stealthily into the BC room. Anna's theme. Anna stood at her podium as usual and spoke up.
さて、聞かせてもらいましょうか。昨日からあなたたち様子が変だけど、一体何があったの？
信じてもらえるかわからないんですけど、僕たち妙な事件に巻き込まれてるんです。
それで相談したいことがあってエナ先生を探してたんですよ。
事件？相談したいこと？何の話かしら。
最初から話しますけども。
Natsuko retold the story of what happened since yesterday. What happened on the bus, the possibility of Q being in the city, and the reason the security department was chasing them. They did leave out the part about Mashiro using empathy. Once the story was done, Anna muttered.
そんなことが。
先生、信じてくれますか？
ええ、生徒の言うことですもの。信じるわよ。そしてあなたたちが純粋な正義感から行動してるってこともね。
Kids were about to sigh in relief, but what Anna had said next stopped them in their tracks.
でもだからこそあなたたちはこの事件に関わるべきじゃないと思うわ。
そんな、なんでですか？
教師として生徒の身に危険が及ぶことなんて賛成できるわけないでしょ。それぐらい警戒すべき相手よ、 Q という組織は。
先生は Q を知ってるんですか？
当たり前でしょ。六名学園の教師なのよ、私は。
Apparently Mashiro and the trainer were right. It did appear to be an infamous organization. However,
だったら余計にどうして？
as Mashiro trailed off on her words, Anna spoke with an exasperated smile on her face.
そうね。それじゃ納得してもらうためにも特別授業をしてあげましょうか。普通の授業では教えないことだけど、あなたたちは知っておいた方がいいと思うから。
特別授業ですか？
Anna nodded and quietly began to speak.
実は BC とテロリズムは切っても切り離せない関係にあるの。私は大学で超心理学を学ぶ中で BC の真の歴史についても当然習ったわ。
Oh?
コミュニケーターが現れて、それから社会がどう変異していったか、その極めて不安定で危険に満ちた歴史をね。
危険に満ちた歴史。
16年前を境にコミュニケーターが大発生したのは知ってるわね。でも当時の社会がそれを簡単に受け入れられたと思う？
それは受け入れられたんじゃないですか？
そうですよ。当時のコミュニケーターは能力も高くなかっただろうし、ちょっとテレパシーが使える人くらいの認識で。
使える側はその程度に考えるわね。でも使えない側もそう思うとは限らないのよ。
Anna frowned as she spoke.
最初にコミュニケーターに対し激しい拒否反応を示したのはごく一部の人間だけだった。2014年2月、フランスの事件よ。コミュニケーターが住んでいた村にある妄想に取りつかれた男たちが放火したの。
放火？
ひどい。どうして？
犯人たち曰く、コミュニケーターは悪霊に取りつかれた悪しき存在だからとのことよ。
悪霊？どういう意味？
聖書にこんなエピソードがあるらしいの。ガラリアの湖のほとりに悪霊に取りつかれた男がいた。 彼はしばしば悪霊の声を聞き、墓場に佇み苦しんでいた。男に名を問うと彼はこう答えた。我が名はレギオン。我らは多数であるがゆえに。その悪霊はやがて男の体から追い出されたが、代わりにそばにいた豚の群れに取り付いた。すると豚たちは狂ったように走り出し、次々に湖に落ちて溺れ死んだ。
何なんですか、その不気味なエピソードは。
わからないわ。このエピソードが何を意味しているのかはずっと宗教論者の議論の対象だったらしいの。だけどその犯人たちはこう考えたのよ。コミュニケーターは我々の聞けない声を聞く。それは悪霊の声だ。彼らは悪霊に取りつかれた悪しき存在なのだ。故に神罰を下さねばならない。
So certainly not a new thing for certain ales of religious folks to read whatever they want out of a passage in the Bible, or interpret it however they want, whatever the actual meaning.
狂ってる。
そうね。私もそう思うわ。当然その犯人たちは罰せられ、幸いにして死傷者も出なかったため、事件はすぐに忘れ去られた。でも後から考えればこれが始まりだったの。コミュニケーターと一般人の対立構造のね。
I'm just thinking about that. And not to diverge from this story for a moment, but religion doesn't make you an awful person. If you're an awful person, you will interpret religion to fit your views of the world. If that makes sense. That's how I feel about things. Like, there's plenty of stories of Christian folk being open-hearted and accepting to LGBT folks out there, and just as many who are the opposite, who throw their kids out because they come out to their parents. It's, in the end, it's religion doesn't make you an awful person. It's you. I guess you read your beliefs through religion. If you're an awful person, you're gonna read proof of to support your beliefs in religion. If you're a good person at heart, you believe in the goodness in the Bible, so to speak. I don't. As soon as I start telling a personal story, I end up immediately wanting to backpedal out of fear of getting too far out of my depth. But does that make sense? I mean, like, I guess the thing in the back of my mind that really stuck out to me is that there was a sign along this one road that I always take coming home from work, which just said, I forget the full context of it, but essentially, to sum up what the sign said, it's vote in accordance to Jesus' beliefs. And, like, that's open to interpretation. Based on what you think Jesus' beliefs were, if you even believe in that sort of thing. You know? If you're inclined to read certain parts of the Bible, support your homophobic beliefs, and otherwise, you're gonna interpret that sentence in a way that would probably support voting for one guy. If you believe that Jesus was open-hearted and accepting to everyone, no matter what, welcoming the poor, welcoming the outcast, the people others left behind, then you'll be inclined, your beliefs are diametrically opposed to this closed-hearted person over here. Closed-hearted homophobic person over here. It's all sentence. It's all. I guess that really I'm not making any sense whatsoever. In summary, it's nothing against religion, but it's just if you're a bad person at heart, you're gonna read religion to support your views. That's the story. That's the story. I'm gonna shut up now and move on. And his expression remained unchanged, but her voice gradually grew more stern.
コミュニケーターがコミュニケーターであるという理由で普通の人々に狙われる。そうした事例はその後も頻発したわ。同年4月にはアメリカのブルックリンでコミュニケーターの青年がリンチされて殺されたし、その翌月には中国で集合住宅が丸ごと焼失したわ。6月にはドイツで、7月にはイタリアとアメリカで、8月にはドイツとフランスとオーストリアで、9月にはロシアとフランスとアメリカと中国で、同様の事件は枚挙にいとまがなかった。知ってる？この町でも起きたのよ。6名死同時多発火災という事件が。
それ知ってます。
そう。偉いわトバさん。今ではあまり語られることもない事件だものね。
Anna spoke with a smile. It was a smile tinged with sadness.
コミュニケーターがごく少数で BC がオカルトの範疇に収まっている時代にはこんな問題は起きなかった。それまでにもコミュニケーターはいたと思うけど、せいぜい新興宗教の教祖様になるかテレビタレントにでもなるか。そしてほとんどは己の能力を隠してひっそりと生きていったんでしょう。でもコミュニケーターが次々に現れ急速に数を増やすようになってから事態は一気に深刻化したの。まるで突如生まれた新人類が旧人類を脅かそうとしていると考える人が少なからずいたのね。 BC が努力で身につけられるものならよかったのだけど、 BC の適性は遺伝子によって生まれつき決まってしまうから。
Anna trailed off at that, allowing silence to fill the classroom. And though the room temperature wasn't that cold, Natsuhiko felt his spine chill. Strange fear sank into his heart. And it continued.
その対立意識はやがて恐怖に変わり、恐怖はテロリズムを生んだ。テロの語源はテラー、つまり恐怖だもの。人がテロという手段を選択するのは他者に恐怖を感じたとき、他者に恐怖を与えるとき。悲しいけれど必然的な流れよ。
信じられない。
だって今は平和じゃないですか。
その平和を作り上げるため各国は並々ならぬ努力をしたのよ。六名士同時多発火災の2年後にはコミュニケーターの保護を目的とした BC 法を制定。それと同時にこの六名士をはじめとしたコミュニケーター保護特区政令指定機密都市を国内6カ所に設立。そして全国のコミュニケーターを政令指定機密都市に移住させたのよ。
移住させたって強制的にですか？
いえ、あくまで任意よ。でも地方に住んでいるコミュニケーターたちは政府からしつこく移住の勧告を受けることになったわ。もちろん移住のための資金は全額支払われるし、場合によっては職業、住居の紹介から高額の準備金まで支給されるの。
どうしてそこまでして？
全ては公共の治安のため、コミュニケーターと一般人の対立を激化させないためよ。急務となったのはコミュニケーターは皆政令指定機密都市に住んでいるという常識を構築すること。そうして住み分けがなされていれば一般人の皆さんも平穏な気持ちでいられるもの。その移行はごくスムーズに行われ、圧力も最小限に抑えられた。
Huh. But that didn't solve the problem, because eventually more communicators were going to appear outside and just crop up more tension.
おかげでコミュニケーターたちは一箇所に集まり、国も BC の研究が円滑に進められる体制ができ、日本は BC 先進国となった。
I'm also just feeling some rather the American history in me is feeling some rather uncomfortable parallels to American history. Let's move all of the people of a certain ilk into concentrated cities, concentrated camps of some sort. Keep them together because the rest of the population fears them. That sounds a lot like what America did to the That sounds a lot like what America did to Japanese Americans in World War II.
つまりこの町はただの研究学園都市なんかじゃない。あなたたちコミュニケーターを守るために国家が作り上げた砦なのよ。
Think about all the surveillance within Rokume City, all the very harsh outer walls and border patrolling meant to keep us in and others out. That's very uncomfortable parallels right there. When you heard the story to it said, Natsuhiko finally understood the truth behind this town. Why this town had such strong public order. Why the city was so vigilant against criminal activity to the point of installing surveillance cameras in city gates. You heard that it was all to protect the local research facilities from industrial espionage, but are they actually trying to protect the communicators? No, the public order of society itself? And it continued as the kids were left speechless.
だけど、社会のシステムが強固になれば、テロリストも狡猾になっていく。
And to have my third real-world example of the episode, it's how people always argue that you make guns illegal, criminals are still gonna find a way to get a hold of guns. Yeah? Yeah. So we should just not do anything then? Okay, that's enough real world for today. Let's save the game and read our tips. How do I... That's how do buttons work. There we go. Oh, I got 2 tips today. BOBO episode 5. Oh no. I love how they have actual, like, episode preview stills for these. Still don't get it. Your real enemies are the townspeople you swore to protect. That's right, the normal humans with no powers. Controlled by the Dark Lord, telepathy used by the leader of the Dark Organization, Nobody. The townspeople grab at Beyond Kami. People she swore to protect are attacking her, and to make matters worse, she no longer has Yeti there to support her. Kirara has always stood up cheerfully no matter what difficulties had faced her, but now... who's friend and who's foe? What should she do, and for whom? Beyond Kami's mind trembles intensely at the Nobody leader's tempting words. Psychic Girl Beyond Beyond, official guidebook. The very townspeople we swore to protect have become our enemies. Quite ironic. Natsuhiko, Mashiro, and Sally were chased relentlessly by the security department under false charges, but Mashiro still did not let herself lose heart. For her Yeti, that is, Natsuhiko and Sally, never abandoned her. To strive for someone's sake, to strive by someone's side. It seems that was all she needed. Oh, Rookaway City has full ADS adoption in its vehicles, but still uses commercial business buses and taxis with drivers. Even if driving is normally left up to the ADS, the driver can switch to manual driving mode in case of emergencies. The presence of a human driver has also been shown to have a major effect on the passenger's sense of security. Furthermore, for the companies providing such riding services, human drivers help make it more clear who is liable in the case of an accident. So having human drivers makes sense for all parties involved. Being a driver in Rookaway City does not require as much driving skill or geographical knowledge as it would in other places. What is more important is the ability to observe and operate the ADS on board. Simple enough. I feel like, once again, that Miyoko and definitely going to be Enna too are operating on the sense of, you're kids, this is too much for you, you shouldn't be doing this. You are going to fucking die if you mess with these terrorists. If you go out of your way to provoke these terrorists. Which is reasonable. And yet, I'm seeing the counter-argument is, why should we sit back and let them fucking terrorize us when we should do something to stop them? Which is also reasonable. So I'm more on board with Natsuhiko and gang doing something proactive to try and stop them. But I also understand where the adults are coming from. I feel like the one thing about the security guard incident at the PRC, I feel like that should have been more blatantly spun on its head to really play up the whole we're faking charges against these kids. Because they did kind of, whatever their intentions, they did waltz into the open door of a private facility. And they did assault a security guard. Whatever his plans were, they were still technically trespassing. And when a security guard moved to apprehend them, they did assault a security guard. So they did do a wrong. And it didn't really feel like between what the security guard said happened and what actually happened, it's like there's not that much of a gap, you know? So I kind of wish that had been played up more to make them more justified in saying, this guard is fucking pulling a fast one on us. What the fuck is going on here? But fair enough, we're still fighting the justice fight. We will continue to fight the justice fight next video. Until next time, until then.